If you want to feel in control and like your goals are actually within reach, and that you're capable of closing the gap between where you are today and where you want to go, then you're in the right place. Let's say you're climbing in your career and everything is going well. You have a great family life and you may even be expanding. In an ideal scenario, though, you'd like to level up at some point to that next level in your career, or maybe even pursue some of these passive income ideas like and get some of that mailbox money that everyone talks about. But here's the question, do you do it? Because while your career is going well, you have young children to support and a single income family. You have their well being to keep in mind, after all. And it's not that you don't want it, that you don't want to go to the next level. Instead, it's a question of if the risk that you have to take on, if it's actually worth it in order to get what it is that you want. Essentially, you need something like a sensitivity analysis on the potential returns versus the risk that you have to take. Because, of course, if you can get whatever you want while risking as little as possible, then, of course, you do it. Everyone would. But here's the rub. We all know that that's not how life works. And instead, that current strategy of saying, how little can I do in order to maximize what I want, unfortunately, that doesn't breed very ample returns. And here's why. There's no way to know absolutely everything. Instead, you honestly just have to decide if you want to allow risk and uncertainty to hold you back. A lot of my clients have MBAs and they're actually in the finance sector, and I often help them in reaching their next level of financial achievement. But it's so interesting to me that people with such a high level of educational attainment in the financial world struggle for their own personal finances. But one of the things that I've come to learn is that when they've gotten their MBA, their thinking was from an organizational standpoint as opposed to from their personal finances. So when it comes to their own trajectory, they're just not sure where to go. And what they needed is some structure and an ability to be able to have time to create a strategy they can employ. When you have an MBA, apparently you're used to being a subject matter expert, like in a large consulting firm or something like that. And they really think of the credential as more of a feather in their hat, not as a tool they can use to build their business. And the same is true when you're trying to achieve your goals. If you think about your skills as only feathers in your hat, as opposed to tools that you can employ for whatever it is you want to accomplish, then that really limits what you can do, and it limits how you're thinking about the ability that you have. Because when we think about what is risk, right? Risk is really just taking whatever that uncertainty is and that unknown and translating it into actions that can really breed a level of confidence. I know there are a lot of books and videos around growth and development and achievement, but a lot of them do not do a good job of explaining the tangibles of it and really what you can employ on yourself individually. Because the obstacle that we're trying to overcome is what we like to call in the financial sector FUD, which stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Now, we're all very familiar with fear, right? It can come across as the fear of failure, the fear of doing it wrong, and certain things like that. Uncertainty, on the other hand, is how do you manage risk factors that you perceive to be outside of your own personal influence and personal area of control. And doubt, of course, is what if I try it and it doesn't work out, right? Ultimately, we have two choices in this regard. The first choice is to do nothing, which means that ultimately we remain stuck and we have to accept the status quo. And that often means living a life that's less than your full potential. Nobody wants that. The other option is to act anyway. And of course, that comes with its own levels of challenges. But why is this really important? And why are we even talking about this? Because I believe that we all want true wealth. And I believe that wealth means trust, it means self-reliance, and wealth ultimately gives us the freedom to implement that which is most important to us and enables us to have the power to make decisions to support having the time and resources that'll enable us to do the things we want. And that can be everything from just having the time to eat healthy to making career optional. I love this quote by Alan Weiss, and he says, "The reality is that wealth is discretionary time and the ability to do what you want when you want." I remember not feeling very wealthy when my mother was in a rehabilitation facility. I couldn't afford for her to go to a nicer facility, And I had constraints on my time because I still needed to work, and I just didn't have the bandwidth to give her the attention that she wanted and needed at the time while taking care of my own daily responsibilities. And I was really disappointed because I wasn't able to do the level of due diligence that I really wanted to do of the caregiving facilities and other attributes in her care. And that didn't make me feel very good. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate with the balances and the reality of trying to balance caregiving and achieving at the same time, and those dual constraints and strains on your time. So I came up with a framework, and it's called Own the Outcome. And this framework is very helpful in terms of helping you take personal responsibility of what's going on in your life so you can actually get where it is that you want to go. And this framework has 4 sections. The first section includes shifting your perspective. We talked earlier about FUD and how that uncertainty can really hold us back. I like to present to you that the unknown is not an obstacle. Instead, the unknown is a permission slip. It allows you to write your own future because it is yet unwritten. There are no rules, and that in and of itself is freeing. The second thing we can do is increase the quality of our inputs, because you can only create within the bounds of our awareness. And I believe that awareness precedes manifestation. So if we take the time to explore before committing ourselves to a path, then that just allows us to be that much more committed and that much more certain about the actions that we take. The third aspect of owning the outcome is to proactively seek out weak spots in your life that need attention and address them. Because if you allow things to fester, they'll only grow and get worse over time. And then finally, it's keep track. I know it can be very difficult to find milestones to know if you're on track or not, and how far should I be at insert age here. I have something to tell you. This is an individual race, and the only thing and the only person that you're competing against is yourself. So I would encourage you to create your own milestones and set aside what goals it is that you want to achieve for yourself. And then you can track and see if you're actually achieving them at a pace and a cadence that you feel is good and worthwhile. If so, then you're on track. If not, then you may want to revisit some of the actions that you're taking. I can tell you that this pandemic has not only caused us to reevaluate our priorities, but it's certainly allowed most people to mature to a level where they're able to see what really matters in their lives. And I can tell you, it's not always money. It takes a lot of time to do research to figure out what our options are and what is most appropriate for us. I would encourage you to reject the external expectations of what it is that you should want and what it is that you should do. I know that's especially pervasive in my life as a lady and as a woman, because there's a lot of external pressure that we have to do it all apparently at the same time. It's been very empowering for myself to be able to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what, it's okay to not do it all, and I'm not incompetent for wanting more. Instead, I encourage you to take control of your time and own your own outcome of what your future looks like for you. If you want to continue the conversation about how you can strategically take personal responsibility for your future and achieve the outcome that you desire, feel free to send me an email at hello@RochelleDeliaPhD.com.